Hello, everyone. This is Ryan with firmTRAK Solutions. It is September 26, 2025, and today I'm joined by my partners in crime or business, either one, Rich Marvel and Carin Weiss-Krolikowski. And we saw this newsletter come out from a CPA firm, and they announced from the executive order signed in March by the president that the IRS is no longer going to issue you, your business or yourself individually, paper checks for any refunds you might receive. And they estimate the cost savings of this is around $657 million. So that's going to be a big cost savings and efficiency gain for the government. And we thought, since we're approaching the end of year, we're moving into the last quarter, it's a good idea to kind of do a PSA on checking in on how you interact with the IRS or the federal as well as state agencies in terms of paying your taxes. So you may have heard some of these terms going around: EFTPS or IRS direct pay. Carin, what do those mean, and kind of what is the distinction here between receiving a refund and paying the government taxes owed here, and how they work?
Well, a lot of people are ready for Social Security, and I would say 98% of all check refunds or tax refunds are already direct deposit. That being said, some people still prefer a paper check. And this doesn't just apply to your tax refunds that you file at the end of the year. It also applies to Social Security payments. It also applies to veterans benefits. Anything that the federal government is issuing now via paper check is now going to be either a debit card, if you so choose, or a direct deposit. I would recommend a direct deposit, but that's just me.
Yeah. And then one of the distinctions we were kind of talking about is when you receive a refund versus when you pay the IRS or the state agency your taxes. So, Rich, what have you found running your business is kind of what you want to look out for there in those distinctions, just not to be as confusing, perhaps, if you're new to setting these up?
Well, from my perspective, this is all kind of from a small business owner law firm. It's very confusing, actually, to try to figure out where you pay and who you pay and how you pay them. Certainly in the state of Illinois, has its own electronic payment platform, MyTax, I think. So we have a personal login and you have a business login for that. And then the federal government, through the EFTPS system, and then they have another online portal, they have their own login credentials for both personal and business. All of the businesses that you have are tied to your FEIN personally, and then you can add the additional information. But for me as a business owner, it's very difficult and confusing to try to keep track of who I'm paying or how much I paid and for what year and how much I owed and who I do it with. So, my head's just still a little spinning on how this whole process works. And I think for normal business owner who's out there trying to do his work on a daily basis, trying to make money and do those things, that's why I find it very valuable and personally to have people that understand this far better than I do, because I'm already frustrated this morning after spending 45 minutes trying to understand what's taking place. Where if you have people that understand it, they can do it for you, and you have confidence that it's being done the way that it needs to. So it's interesting to me that I understand a ton of aspects of a lot of the things that goes into bookkeeping and the things that we do on a day-to-day basis, but the tax information is very difficult to understand. But it's probably one of the most important aspects of a small business, because we all know that small businesses pay, in my opinion, a lot of taxes. So being able to understand how you pay those taxes and how much, so you can see that just visually for yourself, I think is very important.
It was a good reminder, right? Like, they're ending the paper checks in September. So thanks to them, they kind of give us a little reminder here. We're approaching year end, and to kind of get your house in order and think about how you're going to pay your bills. Do you know what you owe? Do you have a good reporting system? Do you have a partnership with somebody who helps you out? It's a good reminder as we move towards the end of the year. What were you going to say, Carin?
I was just going to say, I think it's important to note that there are some entities that are formed, such as an LLC or an LLC with an S-Corp election, that at the end of the year, whether you take the distributions or not, those profits are going to flow through to your personal income tax. So even though an LLC or an S corp may have its own EIN and file a tax return, they're not going to owe. An LLC or an S corp will not owe funds. It flows through to the membership. So I think that's also a distinction that I just kind of want to throw out there, even to make things more confusing if I could. But I think that it's important to understand that as of September 30th, the IRS will no longer issue paper checks, and all government agencies that currently issue paper checks will cease to issue paper checks. So we're at the end of the month now. September 30th is Tuesday. So it's important that you get this all straightened out now before it becomes too late. And the government will tax on penalties and interest for non-payments.
We'll take that as your reminder. If you have any other questions or you have a comment about your experience with the IRS, good or bad, let us know.
I think we should add one more thing here on the two things that Carin mentioned. One, looking on your tax records to see the imputation of income when you actually didn't receive income is confusing. And I know this personally. So it's good to understand actually what that means and how that impacts your personal tax returns and other aspects of your life. The other thing that Carin mentioned is that we are out at September 30th. So we're coming to year end. And because of the changes that are being made and how these payments are made and processed, I think it's important to start to think about year end tax and tax planning. And kind of, is your house in order and are you organized? And that's something that I think is very helpful from a business aspect to understand where you are going into the end of the year, so you can make plans or make maybe last month acquisitions or purchases strategically to help with your tax scenario for that particular calendar year. And having good organized books, I think, is very important as far as how that works. And that's where I think that we really shine. And that's something that, firmTRAK Solutions can assist with multiple business owners to help them understand where they are going into the end of the year. It's always better. Ignorance is not bliss. I say this a lot. Ignorance is not bliss. So it's better to know going into the end of the year where you're at, as opposed to waiting until March 15th and then trying to scramble and then being shocked. So if you're a business owner and you want to get ahead of the curve, now is the time to start thinking about, is your house in order? Do you have your books, your records? Are you ready to go ahead and file when it comes down to it, basically February 1? So I would encourage you, if you have not found someone to assist you, or your records are somewhat complicated, or you have some questions, you can certainly reach out to us and we can guide you and give you some direction. If it's something that we can help you with, we'll certainly let you know. And if it's not, I think that you need to look at us as people that can provide you advice and put you in contact with the right people that can help you if we're not able to do it. And this is just a good reminder that it's this time of year to start thinking about that.